In an interview in 2015, Apple's marketing director revealed what we call the grand theory of Apple. He said that the job of the watch was to not need to pick up your iPhone as often, that the job of the iPhone is so that you don't need to use an iPad for as long, and that the job of the iPad is eventually to be so capable that you'll never need to use a laptop. Each of these products is a computer, and the hope is that one day the watch will be as capable as the Mac is now. The future is this movement towards smaller, more seamless, and more powerful technology. Just remember this idea, I'm gonna come back to it. So, you've probably seen a headline like this, how the smartphone will die in 5 years, or how global smartphone sales are slumping. But I would propose a different conclusion, that in fact, instead of all of that, the smartphone market is evolving. Also, massive shout out to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this video. You only need to look at the sales charts to see that pretty much every company has falling mobile phone sales, and there's a few reasons for it. People are planning to hold on to their current mobile phone for longer than they used to. You've got that pricing which is going up, and we've just reached that kind of psychological barrier of $1,000 for a phone, which is making some people reevaluate. And the third thing is iPhones. People who use iPhones generally upgrade to iPhones, but because Apple is slow to design new phone designs, and because iPhones from 5 years ago are still getting the latest updates, people are holding on to their iPhones now for over 3 years, as opposed to just 2 years on average before. Now, here's the problem with this. If smartphone sales continue to go down, then a lot of these smartphone makers won't be able to remain profitable, and so they're gonna have to leave the market. The number of companies producing smartphones then goes down, and you'll just get much less of that crazy, exciting innovation that we're seeing now. A lot of people are saying that it's all about to become very stale and very static. Now, I wanted to start by not exactly debunking this, but kind of reframing it. The future is not as grim as this picture is painting it out to be, and in fact is something to get really excited about. Here is a graph from 2018 that actually breaks down smartphone sales by segment. It shows that actually, whilst the sales of cheap phones were down by 10% and mid-range phones pretty much unchanged, the sales of high-end $400 plus phones, this is wholesale pricing by the way, had rocketed up 18%. And so, whilst it was easy to just take the total figure of -3% and conclude that the market was declining, all this is really saying is that consumers are shifting from buying cheaper phones to buying more expensive phones, and so it's no surprise that they're keeping them for longer. The usable lifespan of a flagship phone is going to be at least a year longer than your standard cheap throwaway phone. You'll get updates for a longer period of time and performance that can keep up with applications years past their release. So the point is, yes, phone sales are slowing down, but A, it's not as dramatic as a lot of people are making it out to be, and B, something bigger is happening. The phone market is evolving right in front of us. So let's take a quick look at what's next. What comes after the glass brick? So I've got 6 predictions about the future of phones. First up, subscriptions will start to become crucial. They're something that's slowly crept into every part of our lives in the last 10 years, whether it's Spotify for music or Netflix for TV, and it is just starting to happen with mobile phones. You might have heard of the iPhone upgrade program. You pay a monthly fee, and Apple basically makes sure that you're always on the latest iPhone and you're always covered by AppleCare. Now, we already know that iPhone users are pretty loyal. They'll generally buy an iPhone and then keep buying iPhones. But this is the ultimate lock-in. In this one move, Apple has made it so easy for its loyal customers to just pay a fee and never worry about their phone again. They don't need to worry about upgrading their phone. They don't need to worry about transferring things between iOS and Android. They don't need to worry ever again about breaking it. They're completely covered. And that is how Apple is planning to sustain profits, even when sales of these glass blocks globally are falling. It'll mean that whilst the company is busy developing the true successor to the iPhone, the thing that's really going to replace it, they don't need to worry too much about continually making really interesting, really standout devices, because their loyal customers are going to automatically be upgraded to whatever they produce. Okay, now you're probably tired of hearing all about foldable devices and 5G, but they are completely central to this whole thing. Remember how we talked about Apple's grand theory? The takeaway there was that smaller, more seamless, and more powerful technology will succeed. Well, 5G takes us forward in that third element. It makes your phone more powerful. Each new G, whether it was 3G, 4G, now it's 5G, has created a new baseline for what is possible. Every time we've seen this kind of leap in cellular data, it's come with completely new applications that were not possible with the previous gen. 3G allowed for video calling and freely using the internet on your mobile, and 4G let people stream HD TV shows and play games online. Now that we've got 5G, that opens up doors to things like virtual reality and augmented reality in a way that 4G wouldn't have been able to deliver. My third prediction is the idea of a flexible form factor. So you've already seen these foldable phones, and this is addressing the other side to Apple's grand theory. A foldable phone is already potentially smaller and also potentially more seamless. And don't forget, foldable is the first step into flexible, and I really think that flexible is where these devices will start to become so woven into our lives that you'll forget they're actually there. This leads me on to wearables, and we need to make a bit of a distinction here. The term wearables is often associated with these kind of gimmicky sports bands that can sort of detect your heart rate, but what I'm talking about here is devices that carry more functionality than your smartphone, but in a way that's even more seamless. It could be something that wraps around your wrist, but equally it could be something that's part of your clothing, or even something that's potentially implanted into you. Wearables are what is going to bring us closer to augmented reality and virtual reality. So you've probably heard of Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Facebook. Even he has said that the future of Facebook is wearable. Facebook is investing heavily in AR and VR, and whilst right now these technologies feel a little bit cumbersome and require bulky bits of kit, they are leading into seamlessness. And I know, I keep banging on about this word, but it's the direction we are headed in. We are moving towards a world with uninterrupted technology, truly a virtual reality. In fact, I think this movement is already starting to take place. If you take a look at this graph over here, which shows smartwatch sales over time, you can see a very clear trend. Smartwatches have picked up almost exponentially, and in fact at the start of 2019, the same period where Samsung barely broke even in other areas, the company reported a growth of 127% in watch sales. This is that grand theory of Apple in action. The fifth thing is that artificial intelligence is crucial for all of this. It is what is going to allow devices that are this big to be able to replicate the functionality of devices that are this big. This is a simplified example, but let's say right now I need my MacBook to edit videos, and that's probably going to remain the case for the next 10 years or so. But you might know that using Google Photos, your smartphone is already capable of using machine learning to edit simple videos for you, using its understanding of faces, places, and objects. With that in mind then, it's not unreasonable to assume that in a decade's time, Google will be intelligent enough to be able to edit my videos for me in a way that would be a lot better than I could do. All this computing power that makes people feel the need to buy massive desktop PCs, is all going to start to be embedded in the cloud, and we'll just be borrowing it every time we issue a command. And that leads me onto commands. Let's take an example. How do you usually interact with your smartphone? You'll probably say touch, but touch is much slower and less intuitive than voice, and so I don't think it'll be long before voice commands will start to play a larger role. And think about it, if your commands start to only need to come from your mouth instead of your fingers as well, and the fact that the power of your ever-improving AI assistant is available on everything from your wristband to your necklace, why would you want to carry around a bulky phone anymore? And for those of you who are curious, I'd say the next step after voice control would be something along the lines of linking directly to your brain, but that's a long way off and we'll save something for another video. Anyways, to bring this all together, the smartphone as you know it is not just gonna suddenly Thanos snap out of existence. The way I see it going is wearables and small foldable display devices are gonna become so capable that people will start reaching for their phones less. It'll be this slow process where over a period of time the demand will fall until eventually the old form factor will be phased out. And to be clear, these new age devices, they're still technically going to be phones. People are still going to want to communicate with one another, but it's just that they're not going to look anything like this. And speaking of stuff that's unlike anything you've ever seen before, Surfshark VPN is the most affordable VPN service out there. So you pay $199 a month, and that gives you unlimited simultaneous connections. You probably already know that VPNs can keep your browsing secure, especially on public connections. They can help you get around internet censorship in certain regions, but Surfshark in particular does a lot more than that. See, as well as being able to connect to single locations, it allows you to multi-hop or encrypt your data through 2 different servers at the same time. Surfshark also scans your email account for suspicious activity, checks the strength of your passwords, and lets you use something called Blind Search, an internet search tool with no logs, no tracking, and no ads. So check the link in the description and use code BOSS to get an 83% discount and an extra month for free. If you enjoyed the video, do consider subscribing to the Mr. Who's the Boss channel. I've got a whole playlist of smartphone news videos like this, so I'll leave those linked from here. My name is Aaron, this is Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'll catch you in the next one.